Come, dear friend, sit with us for a moment. Let your breath soften. Let your thoughts settle. Today, we speak about something very subtle, yet extremely powerful: karma.
Yes, and to understand karma, let me share with you a story. A story of a young boy, a wise potter, in the shape of one's destiny. Brother, let me take you to a small, quiet village. A place where the mornings smelled of wet soil, where children ran barefoot, and the river sang softly as it passed. In this village lived a young boy named Kiran. Just 16, full of energy, but always troubled by his own thoughts. Every day, when the sun rose, the villagers began their work with calm smiles. But Kiran would step out of his house with a frown.
He complained about everything. If the weather was hot, he blamed the sun. If it rained, he blamed the clouds. If someone succeeded, he blamed fate. If someone corrected him, he blamed them for not understanding.
He often said, "Why is my life so difficult? Why do others get what they want so easily? Why am I always the unlucky one?" His parents tried to guide him, but he believed they didn't know his struggles. His friends encouraged him, but he insisted the world was unfair. Inside, he carried a storm of jealousy, comparison, and blame.
One afternoon, after losing a simple race with his friends, Kiran threw a stone into the dirt and shouted, "Nothing good ever happens to me." The villagers watched him with sympathy, but no one could reach him. His complaints had become the only language he knew.
Finally, an elder woman from the village placed her wrinkled hand on his shoulder and said, "Child, if you truly want answers, go speak to the old potter. He knows how to read not just clay, but also the human heart." Kiran hesitated, but somewhere inside him, a small spark of hope flickered. Perhaps, just perhaps, someone finally had the explanation for why his life felt so heavy. So that very evening, with frustration still burning in his chest, Kiran walked to the potter's hut, a small place filled with the smell of clay and quiet wisdom.
The potter looked up, saw the boy's troubled face, and listened to all his complaints. Every frustration, every blame, every tear held secretly behind stubborn eyes. When Kiran finished, the potter didn't scold him. He didn't argue. He simply smiled kindly and said, "Come to my workshop tomorrow morning. If you wish to understand your life, I will show you."
And so, the lesson began.
The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight touched the village roofs, Kiran walked toward the potter's hut. The air was cool, the sky painted gentle shades of orange, and the world felt quieter than usual. But inside Kiran, the same restlessness continued.
When he reached the potter's door, he hesitated for a moment. The old wooden door stood half open, and warm light spilled out gently onto the ground, like a silent invitation. Kiran took a deep breath and stepped inside.
The moment he entered, the smell of fresh clay surrounded him. Earthy, grounding, almost comforting. Shelves filled the walls from end to end. Dozens of pots rested quietly upon them. Some tall and elegant, some small and perfectly smooth, some uneven and oddly shaped, and some cracked, showing the marks of mistakes and impatience. It was a room where silence spoke louder than words, a place where every pot carried a story.
The potter sat in the center, his hands gently shaping a soft lump of clay on a turning wheel that hummed softly, like a mantra of patience. He looked up and smiled as Kiran entered. "Ah, you came?" Kiran nodded nervously. "Yes, you said you would show me something." The potter wiped his hands, reached for a fresh lump of clay, and placed it gently in front of Kiran. "Take this," he said. "Make a pot." Kiran blinked. "That's it? That's the lesson?" The potter simply nodded and stepped aside.
Kiran pressed the clay between his palms, trying to shape it quickly, but the moment he applied a little pressure, the clay wobbled. He tried again, this time too hard, and the clay collapsed completely. Annoyed, he gathered it up and tried once more, but again, the walls of the pot folded inward, and the shape fell apart. Kiran growled, "This clay is spoiled. It won't listen. It's impossible to work with." The old potter chuckled softly, his eyes calm like still water. "Is the clay spoiled, my child? Or are your hands too restless?" Kiran looked at his hands, trembling slightly from frustration. The potter stood beside him and said, "Clay responds exactly to the mind of the one shaping it. Impatient hands create unstable shapes. Angry hands create cracks. Unaware hands create imbalance." He tapped lightly on the collapsed clay, just like life.
Kiran looked at him with confusion. "What do you mean?" The potter didn't answer. Instead, he walked to a shelf and brought down 3 pots. One beautifully crafted, one uneven and tilted, one cracked right down the center. He placed them in front of Kiran. The potter pointed to the broken one. This pot was shaped by hands full of anger and hurry. He pointed to the uneven one. This was shaped by hands full of confusion and doubt. Finally, he rested his hand on the beautiful pot. And this one was shaped by hands full of patience, focus, and awareness.
Then he looked straight into Kiran's eyes and said, "Your life is also a pot. Your actions are the hands. Your karma is simply the shape you create." Kiran's anger softened. His breath slowed. For the first time, he wondered if the problem wasn't outside him, but inside him, and that was the beginning of the real lesson.
The potter walked slowly across the hut, his footsteps gentle, his presence peaceful, as if even the clay respected him. He returned carrying 3 pots and placed them before Kiran. With the same care one places flowers before a shrine, the 3 pots sat in silence, each one quietly telling its own story. One beautifully crafted, smooth and balanced. One uneven, leaning to one side. And one cracked, almost falling apart. The potter folded his hands behind his back. "These pots," he said softly, "were shaped by 3 different minds."
He picked up the cracked pot first. It wobbled in his hand, its surface full of tiny lines and fractures. "Look closely," the potter whispered. This pot was shaped with carelessness. Hands that rushed. Hands that didn't pay attention. Hands that wanted quick results, without effort or dedication. He tapped the pot lightly, and a dry crack widened. "You see, Kiran, when our actions are careless, our life also develops cracks that grow with time." Kiran swallowed hard.
Next, the potter lifted the uneven pot. Tilted, unbalanced, unable to stand straight. "This one," he said, "was shaped with a confused mind. Hands unsure of what they wanted. Sometimes pressing too hard. Sometimes withdrawing too soon." He rotated the pot slowly. When we live without clarity, without intention, our decisions wobble. Our relationships wobble. And we wobble. Kiran nodded. as if remembering moments when his own choices had wobbled the same way.
Finally, the potter held the beautiful pot. Smooth curves, steady structure, a gentle shine across its surface. The boy couldn't help but stare. It stood like a symbol of balance. This pot, the potter said with pride, was shaped with patience, discipline, and complete awareness. He ran his fingers along its surface. Every touch was deliberate, every movement conscious. The hands shaping it were calm, focused, steady. Then, the potter placed the beautiful pot directly in front of Kiran.
The potter's eyes softened as he looked at the boy and said, "Your life is also a pot. Your actions are the hands that shape it. And your karma is simply the result of your shaping." He paused, letting the words sink into the stillness.
And in that moment, something inside Kiran shifted. It was not loud, not dramatic, but soft, like the first crack of dawn, when darkness slowly melts away. For the first time, he realized that perhaps his life was not unfair. Perhaps it was simply shaped by his own hands. The potter slowly walked to the corner of his hut and picked up a small bowl filled with clear water. He placed it in front of Kiran and said gently, "Look into this."
Kiran leaned forward. At first, he saw only his own tired face. But then the potter began to speak. Water reflects whatever stands before it. Your life reflects whatever actions you pour into it. He took a pinch of dust from the floor and sprinkled it into the bowl. The clear water turned cloudy.
Potter says, "See, even a small act, a careless word, a moment of anger, disturbs the clarity of life." Then he waited, letting the dust settle. Slowly, the water became clear again. And the potter said, "When you choose patience, when you choose kindness, when you choose honesty, the dust of life settles. Your reflection becomes clear."
Kiran watched the water, mesmerized. He realized that every complaint he had made, every reaction, every moment he wasted blaming others, was just dust he had thrown into his own life. He whispered, almost to himself, "So, my karma is not a punishment. It's simply a reflection." Exactly. Life does not punish. Life only mirrors.
Those words landed deep in Kiran's heart, like a seed finally finding fertile soil. He felt a calmness he hadn't known in years. The kind of calmness that comes when truth finally replaces confusion.
The potter noticed the change in Kiran's eyes. A quiet openness, as if the mind had finally stopped running. He smiled gently and said, "Now that you understand the mirror, come, let me show you the maker."
He handed Kiran a small lump of clay. "Shape it," he said. Kiran's fingers trembled slightly as he tried to mold the clay into a pot, but the clay bent unevenly, collapsed, and leaned to one side. The potter observed calmly, without a word. After a moment, he said, "You see what happened?" Kiran nodded, embarrassed. "It broke. I couldn't control it." The potter placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. Potter said, "You didn't fail because the clay was weak. You failed because your mind was scattered."
Kiran looked up, confused. So the potter said, "When the mind wanders, your hands follow. When your thoughts shake, your actions shake with them." He then sat beside Kiran and closed his eyes. "Before shaping the clay, shape your breath."
Kiran inhaled slowly, exhaled softly, and for the first time, felt the noise inside him begin to melt. Only then did the potter say, "Now try again." Kiran touched the clay once more. This time his movements were gentle, steady, aware. And slowly, a small, simple pot took form. The potter's eyes softened. Potter said, "When the mind is aware, everything you touch takes a better shape." Kiran felt something shift inside him. The first spark of responsibility. The first taste of inner stillness. The potter took the newly shaped pot from Kiran's hands and walked him toward the glowing fire kiln. The flames flickered like living wisdom. Potter said, "Awareness shapes life, but challenges strengthen it." Kiran watched the fire uneasily. "Will the pot break?" he asked. The potter smiled. "Only if it was shaped without care. Fire does not destroy what is true. It only reveals its strength."
Kiran stood silently. As the pot disappeared into the fire, the potter continued. Every hardship you face, every difficult moment, every obstacle is fire. He placed a hand over his own heart. But if your actions are good, if your intentions are honest, if your awareness is strong, that fire will not burn you. It will transform you. Kiran whispered, "So my life, my karma, can change?" Potter said, "Of course. The clay you receive is fate. The shape you give it is effort. The fire that strengthens it is experience. And the final pot, that is your karma."
Kiran felt his chest grow lighter, not because his problems had disappeared, but because for the first time, he knew he had the power to shape what came next. He wasn't a victim of life anymore. He was its artist.
A quiet smile appeared on his face. The smile of someone who had finally awakened to responsibility, clarity, and the gentle strength of aware actions. After the pot had cooled in the kiln, the potter took it carefully in his hands and placed it before Kiran. It was smooth, balanced, and strong, a reflection of careful effort and mindful shaping. Potter said, "Look closely, Kiran. This pot is your life. Notice the curves, the edges, the strength. Every part was shaped by your hands. Every mark a reflection of your choices."
Kiran studied the pot, feeling all mixed with gratitude. For the first time, he understood that life was not something that simply happened to him. It was something he had always been shaping, sometimes carelessly, sometimes with confusion, and now with awareness.
After the pot had cooled in the kiln, the potter took it carefully in his hands and placed it before Kiran. It was smooth, balanced, and strong, a reflection of careful effort and mindful shaping. Potter said, "Look closely, Kiran. This pot is your life. Notice the curves, the edges, the strength. Every part was shaped by your hands. Every mark a reflection of your choices."
Kiran took a deep breath. He felt a quiet clarity settle in his chest. The anger, the blame, the frustration, all melted away like morning mist. Kiran, softly, to himself, said, "I see now. I create my life. Every choice, every action, shapes my future. My karma is mine to shape."
The potter nodded. "Exactly, Kiran. Karma is not punishment. It is not reward. It is simply the reflection of what your hands, your mind, and your heart put into the world."
And so, the boy who had once complained about life, who had blamed fate and others, now understood a profound truth. Every action matters. Every choice shapes my life. I am the potter of my own destiny.
He left the workshop that day with the weight of complaint lifted from his shoulders, with patience and awareness as his companions, and with the quiet confidence that his future, like clay in his hands, was waiting to be shaped with care.